Live from downtown Detroit, home of WDIV and Click on Detroit, Local 4 News at noon starts now.
The death toll is rising, and so is the number of people missing in that Florida condo collapse. We'll take you to the ongoing search for survivors in all that rubble. Derek Chauvin will be sentenced today in the murder of George Floyd, how long he may spend in prison, and the major ruling a judge just made in that case. But we begin with Storm Tracker 4. It has been raining much of the morning, as you can see right here on the screen, and things could get more, shall we say, intense as the day goes on. And let's get right to Brandon. We are in for a spell of weather here that's going to be, what, 7 days?
Could be 10 days, yes. Wow. We're looking through next weekend at rain chances each day, not washouts all day, every day for the next 7 to 10 days, but we're getting some beneficial rain right now. You could also call it a nuisance rain. It certainly will slow you down. Some pooling, ponding out there, and temperatures upper 60s, low 70s. The heat that we need for stronger storms not developing due to all of this rain moving over the area. We've had some pockets of heavier rain currently moving into and through St. Clair County, but east side into southern Ontario is some of the heavier rain. No lightning, according to Storm Tracker 4, and temperatures will be taking off into the middle upper 70s. It's the mid-late afternoon where we have a frontal boundary, a disturbance, and if we get daytime heating, that's the recipe for severe weather. A marginal risk, which is on a scale of 5, 1 out of 5. So it's not a huge risk, but still a small handful of storms with lightning and wind damage a possibility. Again, kind of waiting for this disturbance later in the day, and if we thin out the rain for a little while, we get that heating. So you need this, the Local Forecasters app, as we get through not only today, but we have severe threats through the weekend. Interactive radar, everything you need right there in the Local Forecasters app, free. Just search WDIV, Jason, in your app store.
Thank you, Brandon. Rescue crews in South Florida are working around the clock, hoping to find survivors in the rubble of that collapsed condo. In an update a short time ago, officials announced 4 people are now confirmed dead, 159 still unaccounted for, and it's an agonizing wait for answers for the families. Firefighters are approaching the pile from above and below, but efforts have been complicated by storms. Sam Brock is at the scene in Surfside, Florida, with the very latest on their efforts.
The updates in Surfside, Florida are coming in, and they are not what many people want to hear. Miami-Dade Mayor Daniela Levine Cava letting us know this morning that the number as of late morning Eastern Standard Time was 159 unaccounted for in this tragedy right now, but 120 who are accounted for. That number is up from 100 the day before, but the 159 figure is 50% higher than it was just 24 hours ago, something we are watching very carefully. Over my shoulder, what you'll see is an excavator literally ripping chunks of this building out, removing balconies. What this has to do with the search right now, ongoing search and rescue efforts to try to find any possible survivors, is unclear, but we do know these are very dangerous conditions under which these first responders are operating right now. They're some of the most experienced in the world at getting into rubble and trying to find people who could be trapped, but there is debris that's falling. There is rain that has been downpouring all day, on and off, creating very dangerous conditions, but they move on. We're talking about 130 firefighters and first responders from across the state of Florida, as FEMA is now also on the ground, state, local, and federal levels. The efforts continue this morning to try to find anybody who might still be alive in that rubble. In Surfside, Sam Brock, NBC News.
Crews have heard some tapping and other noises in that rubble, but rescuers don't know if the sounds are being made by people or being caused by the settling of the concrete and metal. Breaking development and the other big story that we are watching today, the sentencing of Derek Chauvin. The former police officer and now convicted murderer will learn his fate this afternoon. We've just learned a judge has rejected his request for a new trial in George Floyd's death. Now sentencing is just hours away in a case that sparked a worldwide movement. Jay Gray is in Minneapolis with how long Chauvin may spend behind bars.
Hey there, we're just outside the Hennepin County Courthouse here in downtown Minneapolis, where for more than a year after George Floyd's death, protesters gathered demanding justice. Later this afternoon, they'll learn exactly what that justice is. Derek Chauvin, the former Minneapolis police officer convicted of second-degree murder, will be sentenced here today. Prosecutors calling him for 30 years for his part in the death of George Floyd, while the defense team has asked for time served and probation. The likelihood here is that the sentence will fall somewhere in the middle. The sentencing guidelines for the state are 10 to 15 years, but Judge Peter Cahill has already said there are aggravating factors here which could lead to a stiffer sentence. We will hear from George Floyd's family in the courtroom today during the victim impact statements. And Chauvin has the opportunity to address the court, though it's not clear whether he will speak, especially considering he does plan to appeal the case. That's the latest from here in Minneapolis. I'm Jay Gray. Back to you now.
And Local 4 will have complete coverage of the sentencing. It's expected to begin at 2:30 this afternoon. Then we will bring you reaction from local leaders in our later newscasts. For more breaking news, the Justice Department is suing Georgia over that state's new voting laws. Georgia's Republican-controlled state government imposed a new set of restrictions, many fueled by former President Trump's false claims of election fraud. Republicans argue they are needed to prevent fraud in the future, but Democrats say it's actually to suppress voter turnout.
Our complaint alleges that recent changes to Georgia's election laws were enacted with the purpose of denying or abridging the right of black Georgians to vote on account of their race or color in violation of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act.
So Attorney General Garland says his department is scrutinizing any new restrictive voting laws. And just this week here in Michigan, House Republicans passed a series of bills enacting strict voter ID laws. Well, somebody tried to set the Wayne County Sheriff's Department headquarters on fire overnight. We are told a sergeant saw the flames in a flower planter after midnight. Deputies checked out the cameras and found a man walked up to the window, started a fire, and used a bottle to squirt some sort of accelerant onto the windows. The fire department came and put out the fire before it did much damage. The arsonist, whoever he is, got away. A woman is killed in a car crash that involved a train on Detroit's east side overnight. This happened on Kirchhoff near St. Jean just after 3 this morning. Police say the 49-year-old woman was hit by that train. We don't know what led to the crash, but have calls into police to find out more. Now to your coronavirus headlines and a big boost coming to schools in Michigan. Last night, the State House overwhelmingly approved a $65 billion spending plan and the release of billions in federal COVID relief aid. It will go to K through 12 schools, and lawmakers have to get the budget to the governor by July 1st. Also in Lansing, Republican lawmakers have voted to stop a $300 weekly federal unemployment settlement. The governor is expected to veto it, however. As for where COVID stands in Michigan, yesterday the state reported 153 new cases and 28 more deaths. At last update, 61.3% of Michiganders 16 years of age and up have gotten at least one dose of the COVID vaccine. Governor Whitmer joins the Michigan National Guard for the annual Memorial Pass in Review. This took place this morning at Camp Grayling. The ceremony is a tradition of the National Guard, where accomplishments of the previous calendar year are acknowledged. Deceased and fallen members of the Michigan National Guard were also honored. Governor Whitmer says the National Guard played a critical role in the state's COVID response.
And you were right there on the front lines leading the way as we rolled out vaccines. You have supported the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and our local community health care organization with logistical and medical assets, administering nearly 500,000 COVID-19 vaccinations across our state.
Today's ceremony comes at the end of the Michigan National Guard's annual training. As more of the U.S. reopens, another country is locking down yet again, where concerns over the Delta variant are forcing new restrictions. But first, Los Angeles has a lot of wild chases, and this one is right up there. How a man ended up on the tarmac at LAX with police on his tail.